So I'll welcome you, Stephanie, who I've known for a very long time and proud eMarketer, Insider Intelligence alumni. Ian, who Stephanie introduced me to a few months back and got to break bread and hear about some of the work they're doing. And I just probably as we were rolling out this series, and I was like, I've got to find time for you to come on here. And they floated this idea about the Super Bowl that I was really excited about. So I'll let you explain it better than I will, but just, excited to have you here. Welcome, and great to see a lot of regulars back here. For others who it's your first time on one of these, it's very interactive. So sometimes I don't have to lead any discussion whatsoever. I just get to kick back and listen quite a bit. But feel free to chime in, raise hands, shout if you need to, join the chat. And this is this is really my favorite way, especially like within AI Marketers Guild, for just members to connect with each other. And so I'm just thrilled to see all you here. So Stephanie, Ian, take it away.
Thank you so much, David. Ian, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll give a little bit of context about the company.
I will. Hi, guys. Thanks so much, David. Thanks for having us. So, hello, my name's Ian. I am CEO of DAIVID. Been working on DAIVID for about 6 years now. And prior to that, I used to work at Unruly. So I led the insight team there for about 7 years. And prior to that, worked client side. So I was at Sony Pictures for a while, Nestle, L'Oreal. But I've always been involved in creative effectiveness, and in particular, the impact of emotions on creative effectiveness. And essentially, the work we're doing at DAIVID is taking all that work that I've done over the years to the next level. So we're super happy to be here. This work that you're about to see is literally hot off the press. Like the team were up all night because we're based in the UK. So we're up all night on Sunday after the game, getting everything together, doing some analysis and pulling the story together to be able to present to you guys today. So yeah, we're excited to share. I'll share my screen, Stephanie, while you say hello.
Sounds great. So as David already alluded to, we go way back to our eMarketer days. I'm Stephanie Blair, and I'm serving as the USMD for DAVID. And I also am born out of the advertising world. I started my career in print advertising, spent some time at Agency Within, performance marketing agency here in New York. And I'm here in the New York City area, and I'm excited to be presenting to you today. So while we let Ian, we see a dashboard, not the, there we go.
Sorry, yeah, it's Zoom. It's covering the present button, but I'm on it.
Okay. So I know you're a vocal bunch, but I do think it's important just to take, a handful of slides just to give you a bit of context about DAVID and what we're all doing here. So obviously we're a creative effectiveness business focused entirely on effectiveness driven by creative advertising campaigns. As Ian mentioned, born out of decades of research in this space. But, let's talk about why this matters, because I think, you all in the room know this. Next slide, please. We're seeing that nearly 50% of creative performance is impacting sales, and over 3/4 of large amount of brand marketers deem creative quality one of the biggest factors in success. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I was at a Contagious event organized by WARC and Cannes Lions, and creative effectiveness and its impact to drive the bottom line was one of the major themes of the conference. And obviously, we can see this and we know this. Good creative executed well can drive profitability to the tune of 12x. So we have power in our control, but the problem is a lot of creative out there is just so meh. So we're here to talk about the creative effectiveness, sort of system and grading system that we've used today to help you understand who the winners are in the Super Bowl, and not just Taylor Swift's boyfriend's team, but the brands themselves. In terms of what we are all about, it's also about creative testing for the real world. So we've seen a big shift, and I'm sure those of you who have been in the industry for a long time, back in the day, there was a lot less content, limited number of channels. There was maybe TV and maybe one social channel, and now there's a proliferation of that content, more content than we can even handle. And there's an always on nature of things. And we're seeing spend come, sort of meet this moment as well. So influencer advertising has doubled since 2019. It was $21 billion in 2023 alone. That's according to Statista. And obviously on social, we're seeing it, continue to grow. And this has been a trend for forever, but it's expected to double over the next 4 years. And also other fast-growing channels like retail and TikTok, CTV, this is according to eMarketer, we're going to see this all continue to grow and rise. So these are global figures, but we know that there's a shifting moment, and David is here to meet that moment, because gone are the days of only testing linear or hero-oriented content. That's important. But again, when we're having this mass scale of content, we really need more of a closed loop, always on approach to testing to help marketers and advertisers really understand not just what is working, but why, because that's what consumers demand. And that's what David is here to offer. It's continuous testing at scale. And when we do this, we can really give, really sizable results to our clients, which we'll talk about in just a second. But here's the AI piece, which is interesting. So we're continuously training David with attention, emotions, and creative attributes data. Then we can show David ads and explain why that advertising will work or not. So again, in a world of a lot of what content and metrics, we're really getting to the heart of the matter by using an emotional lens to understand that why. And this is not just for video, it's really for any media. So of course, in today's conversation, we're talking about Super Bowl video ads, but this could be applied to, copy, imagery, really anything that people can react to. And so we're enabling advertisers to understand why the creative worked or not, so that you can set the strategy for the future. And we bring the why, as you can see here, and allow people to test affordably at scale. So what does this mean? We can see here some of the clients that we're working with. So whether it's about making creative effective for a certain platform, like what we're helping Snap understand, helping to add a layer of excellence to modeling for a certain agency, such as Essence Mediacom, or to really look at the influencer space and improve briefings or effectiveness of that strategy. David's here to help, all through our scaled and affordable testing. So we're excited to bring this to you firsthand, because what we've done is we've run a number of the Super Bowl ads through our platform, and to help you understand, what the trends were and who won. So I'll pass it over to Ian to give you a little bit more, the insights-driven approach of why it works, and then we're going to take you through the rest of the time in a more, conversation around the winners and what we all think.
Thanks, Stephanie. Yeah, so just to add to that a little bit on this slide, we're not saying that it's no longer important to test hero content. And in fact, we've tested a lot of hero content with this Super Bowl study. So you're going to see some analysis on hero content, which is totally fair enough. A lot of money is still spent on that content, of course. But what we're saying is also, in addition to that hero content, there is this huge body of work which is being put out by brands across social, the various platforms, influencer campaigns, which isn't seeing the light of day in terms of that insight and understanding process. It's just getting pushed out. The metrics which are being collected on it are social metrics, things like engagement rate, like, shares, comments, maybe reach and impressions. And brands aren't really understanding if that creative is doing anything for them, and if they should continue doing it. And this has really come to fruition in the last, I would say, 9 months, where we've been banging this drum for a while, but brands are now starting to really come to us and say, this is a major problem. I was in a call with Unilever last week, one of their home care guys, and he said to me, Ian, we've got a disgusting amount of content, and I've got no idea if it's working or not. We just keep on pushing it out across all the social channels, and I've got no idea if it's good or if it's not, if it's damaging the brand, if it's helping. And this is where our major clients, the ones we're working really well with and who are using data to our absolute best, these are the clients which are really leaning into this and testing. Yes, they're testing their hero content, but they're also testing these large bodies of work which they're producing, or perhaps which other people are producing as well, to inform their strategy. And that's where we really come into our own. And so for this study, which you guys are going to see, there's a bunch of hero content which we tested in there, but also a bunch of TikTok content, because prior to the big game, there was tons and tons of activity on TikTok. So we've kind of merged those two things together with the presentation we're going to show you guys today. How does it work? Let me walk you through at a high level what we're doing at DAIVID, the data which we're collecting and why, and how we're bringing all this together, because that brings some context for you guys and enables you to see what we're doing and why. So, okay. Everything that we do at David is based on this effectiveness process. So this is the foundation for all that we're doing. And the cool thing about David was when we started the business, we had literally a blank piece of paper. We didn't have any legacy data, which we had to shoehorn into the business or use in some way. We literally had a blank piece of paper and we said to ourselves, what data should we collect from the ground up, which is going to best help us answer the question for our clients, why is content effective or not? And to arrive at this effectiveness process, we did a meta-analysis of creative effectiveness studies from both academia and industry. So we've looked at the work of the IPA and the IAB and all the work we did at Unruly over the years and Ehrenberg Bass and Wharton and so on. And each individual study that we looked at was tending to look at a small part of this process, but we've taken this helicopter view to see how they all fit together in the round. And so it's quite interesting. I'll walk you guys through it. To be effective in the wild, a piece of content, first of all, needs to capture attention. And of course, attention is a major buzzword in the industry right now. A lot of people are focused on attention, and absolutely rightly so, because without attention, you're dead in the water. So attention is critical to creative effectiveness, and it's a big part of what we're doing at David, but it's not the be all and end all, because once you've captured attention, you've got to do something with it. And that something is evoking an intense positive emotion, because it's the emotion which creates the memory and the memory which drives the action. A lot of content these days, which brands are putting out emotionally, is just a bit average. So you watch an ad or a post, and you're like, yeah, that was okay. You feel a positive emotion, but at like a 4 or a 5 out of 10 in terms of intensity. The issue with that is that 2 seconds later, you've forgotten that ad. It's just wallpaper. It's just another average thing that you've been exposed to that day. So the memory is not created, and the action is therefore not driven. However, when a brand can elevate that emotion to an 8 or a 9 or a 10 out of 10, the viewer remembers the way the ad made them feel. They attach the feeling to the brand, and it's that feeling which causes that person to do something either immediately or at a later date. So another important thing to say about this is that attention and emotions are the drivers of output, either from a brand building point of view or from a direct response point of view. The only difference with direct response is that memory doesn't really come into play. You get capture attention, you evoke an emotion, and that person takes the action immediately. They click through, they search, they go through and buy whatever it is you're trying to ask them to do. So this stuff is equally important for brand building and for lower funnel campaigns. So with that in mind, we're training our AI using attention and emotions data, because they are the drivers of effectiveness. Now, another thing about David is that we're bringing lots of different methodologies together. So I've learned over the years that if you do one thing and not another, you get part of the picture, but not the full picture. So the more techniques you can bring together, the more complete a picture you get. So this is what we're doing at David. In terms of attention, to create the attention data, which we're using to train the AI, we're showing creative to people. And we're asking those people to turn on their webcams as they're interacting with the creative, because that allows us to gather facial coding and eye tracking data. So we're understanding, are people looking at the screen or not? When are they tending to look away? And also, what are they looking at on the screen? So what is capturing their attention? So that's a dual attention metric, which in itself is pretty unique in the industry. In terms of emotions, again, we've got a couple of methodologies here. Facial coding, where we're filming people's faces, allows us to see where are people smiling or frowning in the different moments of the video. And that's what facial coding is really good at, pinpointing those moments which are working well or not so well. What facial coding is not very good at is telling us which emotions are being evoked, because we only output 6 expressions, universal expressions, and there are loads more than 6 emotions. So that's why we've developed the David 39, which is our own emotional categorization, which I'm going to come on to explain in more detail in a second. Final part of the puzzle are creative attributes. So at scale, we're sending content to various computer vision APIs, which are telling us what is happening within that content, both in terms of what you can see and in terms of what you can hear. And then we mix all this data up to produce our outputs, which I'm going to explain to you guys in a bit more detail in a second. But first of all, let's double click on the David 39. And because this is really fundamental to what we're doing. Now, this categorization has been taken from academia. There's a huge body of work that exists within academia around what's driving, or what constitutes an emotion. There's lots of debate between academics and lots of grey area and nuance. And essentially, we've taken this big body of work and we've condensed it right down to this list of 39 emotions, which is just really useful for practitioners. And we've done that because so much of that why is an ad working or not, comes down to the emotions that it's evoking. Because we're all humans, we're all responding to everything that's put in front of us in an emotional way. That's how humans deal with the world. So the why is really, really driven. Once you've captured attention, once that hurdle has been overcome, then the emotions that you're evoking come into play in a big, big way as to whether you're going to drive the results which you had intended to drive. So if an ad isn't working, it might be because it's evoking negative emotions. So in the bottom right here, boredom, confusion, those two are super, super common. We see those come through all the time. Or more extreme negative emotions might be being evoked as well. Things like awkwardness or embarrassment or shame or anxiety or contempt, distrust. We're testing creative around the world every single day, and every day these emotions are coming through. On the flip side, when ads are working, they're working because they're evoking intense positive emotions. So that intensity is super important. You've got to be going for an 8 or a 9 or a 10 out of 10, because that's what raises that ad up above all the other stuff we're being bombarded with on a daily basis, is what makes it memorable. So intensity, super important. Also, the kind of emotion that you're evoking can be really powerful as well, because if you can evoke an unusual emotion versus your competitors just by being different, you're going to stand out. You add intensity to that difference, that's when you get those fireworks. And that's particularly pertinent to today's conversation, actually, because as you'll see, and I guess you guys got the sense anyway, like lots of the creative at the Super Bowl this year went for a single kind of trope. Like they really kind of clustered around amusement as the lead emotion here, which is fine if you do it well. And there's certain ways which allow you to do it well, and I'll come on to explain those. But what I would say is the first thing before you even get into it, like amusement's great. If you can do it well, brilliant. You've got to be going for a 9 or a 10 out of 10, because that's what makes it not just mildly funny, but then forgettable, but actually very funny and then memorable. But look at all these other emotions that brands can play with. Like look at all these wonderful emotions here: awe, excitement, surprise, pride, gratitude, hope, relief, knowledge, nostalgia, romance. All these other things which can be evoked. And, a large mass of the brands at the Super Bowl went for amusement, which basically made it very hard to stand out. But I'm kind of spoiling the presentation, so I'll move on. But yeah, so what I've just described in terms of the AI and the training data set is one side of the coin in terms of our training data, which is the how are people responding to stuff part. The other side of the coin is what is happening within creative. And to gather that data at scale, we're sending assets to various computer vision and computer listening APIs, which essentially tell us what is happening in that content, both in terms of what you can see and in terms of what you can hear on a frame by frame basis. And essentially that becomes a very deep understanding of what is happening within content. And our system then understands these two data sets and understands the connections between them. And that's really where the magic of what we're doing lies. So I'll give you guys an example. If you just imagine that's a single frame in a video, just from that one frame, we're picking up loads of information. So we're picking up the fact that there's a crowd there, and there's traffic noise from the road, and there's a girl between the age of 25 and 34, and so on. All of these things become data points, which we can correlate with outcomes. So maybe people are paying attention to the girl because of what she's wearing, or maybe people are looking at the crowd and they're feeling a bit anxious or perhaps a bit excited, and so on. So our system's continuously learning what it is about content, which is resulting in a certain outcome. We're continuously training our algorithm with more and more live human data where we're showing content to people to gather that data to then train the algorithm. So it's continuously learning, continuously updating. And that then forms the basis of everything that we do. So in summary, we're using AI to handle this complexity. We've got the various data sets which we're putting into David. We've got facial coding, eye tracking, David 39, computer listening, computer vision. And then we mix all these things up to produce our outputs. Okay. So what does this mean for our Super Bowl analysis? By the way, guys, if you've got any questions at any point, please do dive in. I can't actually see you guys at the moment. So if you want to interrupt me mid-flow, all good. Just please dive in. Okay. So Super Bowl 58. How did this shape up? Well, as I said on the previous slide, a large number of ads were going for amusement. Like they had amusement as their lead emotion. In fact, 2/3 of the brands which launched a Super Bowl campaign had amusement as their lead emotion, which is totally cool. If you do it well, if you evoke intense emotion and really with amusement, when I say intense, I'm talking about a 9 or a 10 out of 10, because you really have to move the needle to particularly when there's so much funny content being produced, you really have to move that needle to create a funny ad. And some brands did it really well. So Popeyes and Paramount Plus did it well. I'm gonna go through the content, guys, and play it. So for those of you who didn't see all the ads, I know there's there's just so much content released on the day, but it's worthwhile kind of just having a look at what's working and what's not. So Popeyes, to start with, this tested very, very well. This piece of content is actually second in our overall list of hero content. Let me just play this for you guys.
Yes, there's a better way. Popeyes.
Salmon,
Chicken place.
crispy, juicy. What else is changed? Here we go.
You're crazy. 2 dogs in one? Hooray! Dogs to Popeyes! We did it! Popeyes finally had wings. Chicken from Popeyes.
Just checking you guys can hear the audio
Yes.
of the video. Yeah, cool. Awesome. So, yeah, Popeyes did really well. That amusement score is very decent. 29.9% of the audience found that intensely funny. So nice, big success for Popeyes. It's also brilliantly branded, very strong brand recall. So that's what was driving the performance of that particular creative. It also opens in an interesting way. So it opens this kind of lab scene. You're not entirely sure what's going on. There's a bit of intrigue there. So in terms of attention in the first 3 seconds, it's doing a really good job. So in terms of our creative effectiveness score and how we rank this content, it's attention. So potentially people paying attention after the first 3 seconds, and then it's potentially people feeling intense positive emotions, and potentially people remembering the brand. It's the combination of those 3 things which we really focus on based on our creative effectiveness process. Paramount, again, this was a very successful ad, featuring lots of different characters and celebrities as well.
So Chris Perkins wanted to know more about the brand assessment context. Does it consider any relational dimensions to either the category or current consumer impressions of the brand?
So when we test creative, particularly when we're building an algorithm, we test that creative in isolation because we need to understand the impact of the creative itself on people's responses. And so you imagine we can't possibly control for all the different environments that it might be shown in, or what it's shown next to, what's seen immediately before it, what's seen immediately afterwards, people's impression of the brand as well. So when we're testing creative, we need to make sure that a sufficiently robust number of people watch that creative so that sample is representative of the global population within a country. So our standard testing is 350 nationally representative people for each asset that goes into an algorithm build, because then that irons out a lot of the different preferences around brand. Like some people love a brand, some people don't. So you need a fairly large sample size to kind of negate that. And the creative is tested outside of context because we want to understand the impact of the creative itself. Of course, in the real world, that can be either heightened or dampened down by the way it's distributed. But our baseline is the creative itself, because we need to understand how that compares to other creatives, and then we can make recommendations as to how the creative is working or not, which then the media part of the campaign either dampens down or amplifies.
So Thank you for that. And then there's a couple of other questions, but I'm going to cherry pick them because some we're going to get to. But just very quickly on this slide, what does a 29.9% amusement score indicate? Kate Cook would like to know, is it a good score? Is it a slice of the pie of emotional attribution? And then we'll get into how that compares to some of the others like State Farm and Dunkings, et cetera.
Yeah. So that means that 29.9% of viewers found that ad intensely funny. So they felt amusement at a 9 or a 10 out of 10 when watching Popeyes, and 29% when watching Paramount. And yes, that is an excellent score versus the US norm. So the US norm for amusement is about 9%. So that's like a large over index, like a 300 index over index. So it's a decent score. I didn't want to put lots and lots of data on these charts because I wanted to keep it quite conversational. But yeah, the reason I'm showing both of these examples here is that both of them did very well. But these were some of the best in terms of amusement. As you'll see as we go through the deck, there's some less good examples as well.
Okay. And then lastly, there was a quick question, 30 seconds or less. Are we using natural language processing to look at copy? I think we've covered that a little
Yes,
bit. Yeah.
we are. So the copy on the creative attributes side, the copy goes through Amazon Recognition, which includes natural language processing. So understanding the copy, so the words being used by the actors, we're transcribing those. We're transcribing anything that's said in terms of subtitles or any text which occurs on the screen. And then we're also adding not just NLP, but also an analysis of the tone of voice which words are said in. So we're using different API to add the tone of voice analysis. And that adds a lot of color to like a simple text read. When you add the tone to the NLP, then you get a much deeper understanding of not just what's being said, but also the context and the tone, and also the back and forth between protagonists as well.
Okay. And there's a lot of other good questions. So let's just take one or two more here. We'll share a few more examples, go deeper. We'll talk later about ads that broke a lot of rules this year versus last. We'll talk about that in a moment. There are a couple of questions around how do we align a particular set of emotions back to what's right for each brand? And I think this speaks to the way in which we collaborate with brands, and also, industry by industry, there are different standards or emotional white space that we can help brands figure out. So for example, you might care a lot about performance for BMW, but not so much about funny. So help us answer that question. That's a lot of people in the room are curious about that.
Yeah. Great question. So I'm often asked, like, what's the best emotion for sales or for recall or search or whatever it might be. And the reality is there is no one best emotion for each brand outcome. A more interesting way to think about it is which emotions are right for my brand. And we often do these kind of category studies for brands. We did one for Shiseido, for example, looking at US cosmetics on TikTok. Because Shiseido had a problem. They had lots of new direct-to-consumer competitors who had launched on TikTok. And these guys were really eating Shiseido's lunch. Like Shiseido were nowhere on the platform. Their engagement rates were well lower than their competitors. And they said to us, well, why is this the case? So we analyzed a load of their creative and their competitors' creative and created this emotional positioning map, which showed which emotions were being evoked by which brands in the space. And what that allowed Shiseido to do is identify the emotional white space. So these are underused emotions in that particular category. And as I said before, if a brand can move into that emotional white space, if it can evoke an unusual emotion versus its competitors, by doing so, they're going to stand out. And then you add intensity to that, and that's when you get those great results. So there's no one right positive. All the positive emotions can be used effectively by a brand, but I would encourage brands to understand their competitive landscape. What are others doing within that landscape? And where's the emotional white space that they can move into and own? And it's not just about picking any emotion which people aren't using. It's also about understanding which emotion is right for the brand. We help the brands go through this process. And this is really the crux of this matter as well, in terms of the Super Bowl, with everyone focused on humor. It's really hard to gain cut through because if everyone's basically doing the same stuff. I mean, these two did well, but so many ads, like only 7 of the ads, the big game ads, but which went for amusement, only 7 of them evoked intense amusement among more than a quarter of the audience. So loads were just not hitting the mark. And when you consider how much money is being spent on these celebrities as well, it's a shame because brands there are so many other avenues you can go down to gain differentiation, as we saw on that slide.
So let's go through some of our other findings, because I have the benefit of knowing what is in store here, and there's a lot of juiciness. Somebody did ask about our model, and does it, how do we break out by demographic, and are there relevant differences? So where possible, if you have any color to add on that relative to the other examples, please add them. But I did type in an answer.
Yeah, but we want to see the results. And
exactly. Let's go.
All right, cool. So let's have a look at the next one. So if you're going to use humor, cool. But remember that humor is polarizing, right? So as with any emotion, you've got to be getting to a 9 or a 10 out of 10 to be memorable. To get to that place with humor, it's often necessary to go to a place where a brand isn't comfortable, because while you're making some people really, really laugh, you're really turning other people off because humor is very polarizing. And that was the case with CeraVe, which I'll play a little bit of with Michael Cera, talking about the CeraVe brand.
I'm Michael Cera, and I'm pleased to announce that this is my cream. Oh, you didn't know? Generosity. The truth has been hiding in plain.
So it's slightly creepy. He's talking about, he basically is making out that he produced the brand CeraVe. And this was supported by a lot of content on TikTok as well, which I'll come on to talk about in that section. And it was polarized. Some people find this creepy. They feel awkward when they're seeing it. Or some people are just confused, like, what the hell's going on? Some people understand that it's a spoof and it's ridiculous and they find it hilarious. And that's great. This is what you want to be doing with humor. Like, own it. Don't be afraid that you're going to turn some people off. As long as your target audience are finding what you're producing intensely funny, then all good. Because the opposite of that can be just a bit average. Often what we find is when brands try and be funny, they're not comfortable going to a place where it's going to really make people laugh. And so it just gets, the ideas get watered down to the point where they're just a bit meh. And that's what happened with Progressive Insurance here. Again, I'll play a little bit of it. It's just a bit average, unfortunately. And there was a lot of creative in the Super Bowl this year, which followed a similar kind of vein, like, featured a celebrity, tried to be funny, and just was, I mean, not terrible, but just was okay. And amidst all this noise, and I guarantee you this will be forgotten almost immediately. And don't think that celebrities are going to get you out of jail free. So there's obviously ridiculously expensive ad with Beyonce, the Verizon one. I mean, again, it wasn't horrendous, but it was just okay. We had a fairly average. This thing is covering 12.8% amusement score for this Beyonce ad. Again, I'll play a little bit of it. You'll see what I mean.
Broke the internet again.
Did you post this?
Oh, well, not on purpose.
Oh, it's coming in hot.
It's Verizon 5G. The network is crazy powerful. I bet you can't break that.
I bet I can't.
Get it, but can she break Verizon? Broken?
No.
So Beyonce tries to break the internet in various ways. Really, really expensive. And again, against the backdrop of other brands doing very similar stuff, albeit not with Beyonce, but essentially the same formula, it just didn't gain cut through. One thing you can do with humor is mix it with other emotions. So that's what this Uber Eats ad did brilliantly. when you do that, the ad can work in different ways for different people. So you're not relying on it being funny. You're evoking other emotions, and that broadens its appeal. At the end of the day, we want people to feel intense, positive emotions. That's what's going to drive that memorability. It doesn't really matter which emotion it is. And so if you can combine amusement with different emotions, that's what's going to be very effective. And this particular ad with Jennifer Aniston and David Schwimmer and so on did that.
You.
I didn't know you could get all this stuff on Uber Eats.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, you know what they say. In order to remember something, you got to forget something else. Make a little bit. And that's how I remember Uber Eats has coffee by forgetting something else.
Have a seat.
Yeah.
What?
Remember when you used to be a pepper lady?
Wasn't it the Cinnamon Sisters?
Basil babe, paprika girl? Nah, that's absurd. Sure.
Like that's posh there as well. But so this is working in lots of different ways. It's funny, but it also is generating interest in the product itself and excitement in the product itself. It's got nostalgia coming through around friends and around Bex and Posh and all these kind of people that we've known for years. So this is a really good way to incorporate humor. If you have to go for humor, cool, but mix it with different emotions. And that is exactly what one of the greatest Super Bowl ads of all time did. Volkswagen's The Force. I won't play this because I guess we've all seen it like a million times. But the brilliant thing about The Force was that it combined lots of intense emotions. Yes, it was funny, but it was also heartwarming, had adoration in there, inspiration, nostalgia, pride. And it worked in a lot of ways, such that nearly 80% of viewers felt at least one intense positive emotion watching that ad, which was what makes it so iconic and so brilliant, because it's working for a large proportion of the audience. Now, the winner of the Super Bowl, with regards to the data which we collected, was this NFL ad, which didn't try and be funny. And yeah, featured celebrities, but they weren't kind of the main event in this particular piece of content. We play a little bit of this to just remind you guys what it was all about.
58 in Las Vegas.
Quincy, it's 2 a.m. You have school tomorrow. Get some rest.
See you tomorrow, Saquon.
You got it, Quessy.
Your science partners are going.
So it's a lovely ad. We have inspiration in there. It's about this kid who's growing up in Ghana. He's dreaming of being a American football player. And it's just really heartwarming. It's inspiring. There's admiration coming in there. There's hope. And it's just succeeding on lots of different levels. And it's not trying to be funny. And yeah, there are little humorous bits in it, but that's not the main thrust of this ad, which made it stand out from the crowd when everyone else is going for amusement. Going for different emotions can be very, very effective. And that's exactly what this ad did. Remember that attention plays a big role. So this Google ad was interesting because it did brilliantly at evoking positive emotions. Like 66.2% is a very good score for intense positive emotions. So a large proportion of the audience felt intense positive emotions when watching the ad. But what let it down was this attention score, because it's about someone whose vision is impaired, and it opens from his point of view. So if you guys remember,
for many people with blindness or low vision, there hasn't always been an easy way to capture daily life.
One base dropped. Move your bone down.
which is getting across the point of the guy's visual impairment. But as a viewer who doesn't know this creative and doesn't know where it's going, if you see that, you're like, well, that's blurry, that's weird, I'm going to look away. And a lot of people did. So where this fell down was, like in the real world, you'd be losing people after the first 3 seconds. But also the brand recall was low as well, because it's a lot of the content is just kind of showing the phone in this kind of blurred vision. Again, it's getting a point across the point, but not that many people were attributing this particular ad to Google, which is another problem, of course, when you're spending so much money, as this is an example of. So Squarespace, Big Game Spot, directed by Martin Scorsese. So you can imagine how much this cost them. And it's beautiful. It looks lovely. Again, positive emotions were pretty decent. Tension's good. But that brand recall is just horrendous. This was part of a larger campaign. They put out a lot of content on TikTok where there's a guy who's designing his website, designing a website for aliens, and the aliens actually arrive and they use the website which he's designed. But if you've not seen the build-up content, then this is just a bit, what, you don't get it. And then the branding right at the end, I can show you, it goes through, it's like a minute and a half long.
I told you it's hit Broadway. This always happens.
It's super quick and then it's gone. And you've not seen any of the build-up content where they're creating the site and they're showing the aliens and so it just didn't really make sense. And that brand recall score, 52%, when you spend God knows how much, let's call it $10 million on this spot, when half the people watching that spot don't know it's a Squarespace ad. It's not a great result.
So Ian, we've got 2 minutes left. So let's not use any more video because there's also some good debate and discussion going on in the chat.
Yeah.
Our findings.
All right, cool. So one good way to really hammer home your brand and your brand and to drive that really great brand recall is to make your brand integral to the ad. And that's what Pringles did. They had Chris Pratt, who has got a Pringles mustache, and it basically became the brand. And so all of the ad is very much centered on Pringles. And if you remove Pringles from the ad doesn't work anymore. And that's the best way, honestly, to drive brand recall. And that brand recall score you can see from Pringles is superb there. Okay, let's talk a little bit about TikTok and what brands are doing on that platform. Paramount, they had a lot of really nice polished content to support the main ad. So it wasn't the main ad. They didn't repost the main ad. They had other ads supporting it, which performed very, very well. They added color and amusement to the main spot in a really effective way. VW also did this brilliantly. They had an unusual piece of content as well, very much focused around nostalgia and the soul that Volkswagen brings to its cars. And the TikTok content supported that brilliantly. So it was really powerful. 15-second ads, all very strong. One thing that TikTok can be used very, very well for is to tease, trend, and extend. So prior to the ad, tease it. And this is what Dunkin' Donuts did with a lot of Ben Affleck content ahead of game day. Lots of teasing, building on last year's campaign as well. Like, what are they going to do? What's going to be the storyline this time? And then they trended. So they put actually the main ad on TikTok, but they did it in a format which was made for TikTok. It wasn't a horizontal video, it was a vertical video, mastered and edited for the platform specifically. And then they extended. So after the game, they showed content of what happened after, he goes in and tries to sing, become a pop star, and he's kind of like shamed. So it's a really nice example of tease, trend, extend. And also CeraVe teased, trended, and extended really well. But what they did in addition to Dunkin' Donuts was they did so with unique content. So they built on the main spot. They didn't take like stuff from before it. It was shot in very different ways. It's lots of different kinds of content. So influencer content, spoof content from the brand, like it leaked internal memos that Michael Cera has been trying to claim that he invented the brand and he shouldn't be allowed in the building. And these influencers being sent weird boxes by Michael Cera. Very, very good. All joining up together to really support the main message of the brand. So I won't read through these. Basically, it's just what we've discussed in terms of our key insights. Hope that's helpful. And we've got 7 minutes, and there's like 40 messages in the chat. So
curating. Does anyone want to come off mute and ask a live question? If not, I'll pull out a couple of the remaining questions from the chat. Thanks for being such a great audience.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
I wanted to jump in on one of the rule breakers that I put in the chat about Bud Light with the genie, because they ended with their wish being to go to the Super Bowl, and then exactly cut right there. We're live back at the game, and the genie has brought them in the seats and how that scored in terms of at least it was back to back and right there, and it was a real good rule breaker.
Yeah, interesting. I have to remind myself how Bud Light did, and certainly not standout. I think they were mid-table from memory.
And they did that extension bit that where they just flashed to them very quickly in the audience. So
yeah, but again, right, it was
continued into real time.
The focus was amusement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a slightly different creative device, but it was still playing in that similar kind of space to the other brands. And that's really the major takeaway for me. Like, fine, do funny if you want to, but you've got to really turn up the noise if you're going to cut through. And actually, there are so many other emotions that you can go for, which are going to get you stand out and make you distinctive.
Just to poke further, and please other people jump in, but the fourth wall breaking is really what I'm getting at here. The ad was fine. I agree it was middle of the road. It's that the genie took them to the game and they were at the game. And if that registered interest.
I'll have to have a look. Honestly, I'm not sure. The campaign itself it certainly wasn't one of the top 10. It
makes me think a little bit of the SpongeBob SquarePants tie-in that was all over the place. That was never really, I don't know. Did Nickelodeon have an ad that tied into all the?
Yeah, their own channel simulcast.
Okay.
It was actually much better at some points than the actual broadcast itself.
Wow. Okay, I missed that.
It was the first time ever Nickelodeon. Also, I mean, they've done it before, but they had a box with commentators live.
See, I just saw the ad part, and that was cool because I didn't know what was going on. But I'm like, wow, they paid a lot to be right there. So it was actually another show simulcasting.
Yes, I had to fight my 7-year-old not to watch that version and watch the real version so I could see the commercials because it was
kind of like the Puppy Bowl. Has its own vibe. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Think we're covered. Oh, go ahead, please.
Question about kind of the background. This is fantastic, Stephanie, Ian. This is so fun that you worked your ass off for this for us. And David, thank you for having this meeting. It's great AIMG jam. So the question I have is the hard question, which is you're talking about outcomes. And do you have any insights in how you take this magic that you're providing to engage with that huge leap and jump across the company between what the marketing people are saying and what the salespeople are actually checking, or SKUs that are moving? What actually, as you say, outcomes, deliverables? The question really is about the sales loop back. Do you have any experience or insights? Because I bet that is the steepest hill that you're climbing.
Yeah, 100%. So when we work with clients on these strategic projects, they're often bringing their own data to the party, and often that's sales data. So for instance, DirecTV, we are analyzing all of DirecTV's social content. And one of the outcomes that they care about, that their C-suite cares about, is net sentiment score. So that's one of the metrics that they really care about. But also, they have just brought we did a project on net sentiment score to kick off, and now they've just surfaced a bunch of website traffic and signups data. And so we're then correlating the social performance with traffic driven to the website and then people who actually convert. And that's a super rich data set. Clearly, we're not normally privy to that data, but if the brand brings that into the process, we can absolutely correlate our data with their data and give them insights, not just around how to evoke great emotions, but how to then result in how can we drive the results that
are you talking to them about literally DirecTV new subscribers?
Yes, exactly right. Yeah, because they've got that data. Yeah. So that's a really powerful way to use us. When the brand brings a lot of their own data and we mix it in with ours, then you get the why. Why did this content drive the outcome that you're looking for? In that case, it's new subscribers.
Yeah.
I have a question too, if I can squeeze it in. Ian, Stephanie, great presentation. Super valuable information. I have a question around DAIVID itself. Are you planning to make this available as a product, as a subscription service, or is that an internal tool that you're using for your services only?
I could take this more. And a few people have commented above. And so I added some, pricing for managed service. So we have two ways to buy managed service or self-serve. On the self-serve side, it's giving you some directional motions, but the managed service is really these deeper dives that we've been looking at, analyzing all elements. And so for a single asset test, anywhere from 5 to 7K to really understand the why behind it. 20 asset tests in the 18 to 20K range to really figure out that content at scale and that deep dive, whether it's your own things, a competitive landscape, and then we can do bespoke projects beyond that. So drop us a line, let us connect on LinkedIn, or I'll put my email in the chat.
We should definitely do that.
We also have a giveaway. Anybody who wants to look at a fuller report of this, you can download that. I'll drop the link in now as well.
So, David, you should introduce them to Donovan because they're pretending to build this.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, literally, they're pretending to build this, and why should they bother? They should talk to these guys. I mean, like, call now if or I'll email Donovan if you don't. So, let you do it because they're literally, tongue in cheek, pretending to build this is what's happening.
Right, but we have it built. So,
and what talking about Ogilvy is what I'm talking about.
Yes, from last week.
Yeah.
We would love to be connected. Please, let's continue.
So, on that point, Rory Sutherland has just become an advisor of the business. Actually, we was on a call with him like an hour ago. So yeah, he could help move that along within Ogilvy as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ian, for presenting all this, and Stephanie, for all your insights, and great to connect with you both. Appreciate everyone coming today. Yeah, stay tuned for the updated info. Anything else anyone needs from this, then just let me know. Happy to connect with everyone, and Ian, Stephanie, hope to see you again soon.
Thank you all. Great to
Thanks
be
a
here.
lot. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Happy Valentine's. Bye-bye.
Yes, happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's.
Bye for now.
All those emotions.
I know. Perfect day.
Very emotional.
Everybody.
You got an 89.5, by the way.
Oh,
just
thank you.
so you know my emotion. I just tell you that.
Thanks, David. See you soon.